Brett?
Harold?
Q&A number, what number Q&A is this? We need to decide on this before we get going.
So we were doing some digging because we mislabeled when we started the show.
That's on me.
No, it's not.
That's
no, it's not. It's
my
not.
fault.
You're a king.
Fine.
Officially Q&A number 2. We're
right.
going to get back to doing these more consistently, which we're fired up about. I'm guessing this is probably Q&A number 4.
I think
5,
it's Q&A 4. Should
which
we
is
just call
awesome.
it Q&A 4.5?
4.5. Q&A
Right.
4.5.
Cool.
So we wrote into Twitter and Instagram and just open source some questions from the audience, which is always incredible. So we've got 24 questions. We've got until 5:30 p.m. Central, which gives us like an hour and 15 to dig into 24 questions, which I'm fired up about. I've got the Lappy here too, which, you know, that means that we're dialed in. We've got the Jocko Go, get some liquid discipline in.
What else do you need?
What is this, blue raspberry? It's incredible.
I'm fully fasted right now. I feel like I'm in that like zone where I could just sit here and talk all day.
You don't need you're the type of guy that you just need like a cup of water.
Yeah,
You don't need anything else.
A cup of water.
Meanwhile,
and then
me, it's like 17 cups of coffee, couple too many Zins, Jocko Discipline. I'm just a stim junkie, but we'll get into that. That's part of Danny's question. So,
Danny's questions.
All right, question number 1.
All right, let's go for it.
From our boy Austin Hill, local ATX guy.
Shout out Austin.
He has 2 questions. The first is, how was the vision when you started the show, and how has it evolved from episode 1 to now?
I mean, the vision when we started the show, it was like...
Was there a vision?
Yeah, like you could say there was no vision. I mean, the vision was we had been writing on Twitter for 2 months, basically, and we were just talking about the iterations that we wanted to take next because we were seeing success on Twitter with the threads that we were writing. People were interested. The topics that we were writing about were getting traction. We had started to grow a little bit of a following. And the vision at the beginning was just like, let's meet more people in the health space. Let's start having more conversations in a different modality. So, you know, we could have gone deep. Had the blog, we had Twitter. So it was like, what's next? Do we do Instagram? Do we do TikTok? No, it's like not our style. So I think we're just looking to get like deeper, more penetrating conversations. And the vision was just meet a bunch of people and have great conversations around these topics that we're interested in.
Yeah, it's really well said. And also,
excellent.
I feel like I always say that when you speak, but you do have a lot of your points are very well said.
Good points.
I mean, so at the day of recording this, which is October 26th, 2023, we're at episode 242. And I think we can both confidently say from episode 1, we had no vision outside of like we just wanted to throw our heart and soul into
velocity.
Something. Velocity.
Like, let's just go.
Yeah, we were just, with both of us, we say this all the time, right? Not MDs, don't have degrees in exercise science, but we were passionate guys about nutrition that had invested the 10,000 hours. We had some success. We felt like we knew some things about the food system, but more importantly, we were curious about the food system.
Yeah.
And so we said, why don't we just get on the actual experts? We'll be the enthusiasts. We're good at asking questions. And let's just try and make as many people healthy as possible, even if that's just one person. Like, I don't even remember having a goal of making money at all because I was working my sales job for 6 months. And I was like, all I know is that when I write a thread, when I record an episode with you, when we jump on calls, when we meet a great guest, it's literally the best feeling I've had in years. So we're just going to lean into that feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. We were definitely just chasing a feeling for the most part.
Yeah.
But also at the beginning, you don't sit there and go, well, we're going to map out 240 episodes. We're going to do 240 episodes in this period of time. And like, I just think we both at the beginning of this whole thing were very comfortable embracing like no real defined path and just wanting to move quickly and put out good work. It was like a certain level of pride in the work that we were going to put out, but we just wanted to like experiment, iterate as quickly as possible.
Totally. And we also had, I don't want to call it imposter syndrome, but that probably is part of it of, hey, we're guys that are essentially going off the couch. We want to launch a podcast. We want to build some type of a brand. We want to have some type of impact in the space. So we just need to crank. You said the term velocity, and I feel like that perfectly describes our ethos at the time. I mean, June of 2022, we did 35 podcasts.
Yes.
And we had a 2-hour time difference because I was in San Diego. You were here in Austin before I moved out here.
They're all virtual.
Dude, we had a day where we did 5.
We did 5 in one day.
And I was
we did 35 podcast recordings in the month of June 2022.
Yes.
That was nuts.
And so I think for anyone, velocity is really the key. If you want to get really good at something, obviously you need to put in the reps, and just how far can you push that goal? How much can you condense that goal that you have?
Yeah.
For us, it's like if we've grown a decent sized following, anyone can do it, because we were off the couch with 0 followers in January of 2022. It's just the focus.
Yeah. And you over-index for certain things when you start to get into too much of like let me put like a big time strategy in place, and then you kill a lot of momentum. And the name of the game with growth is momentum. Just how can we just create as much, and people will say virality. It's just the same thing. It's like well, actually, no, they're different, but momentum is the key to that long-term sustained growth.
Yeah.
And you create that through moving quickly, iterating, making it engaging.
I think also people will say to us, oh, it's probably really difficult having a co-hosted podcast. And I think you and I both feel the exact opposite, where number one, you have to throw the ego out of the equation. The emphasis is on the guest and the listener. So you have to work almost in like synchronicity with the co-host, because you're saying all I care about is creating the best possible episode. I don't care if Harry has the best soundbite. I don't care if I have the best soundbite. Hey, I've asked 2 questions. I probably shouldn't ask a third, even if I want to, because I want to give Harry the chance to speak, because I know he's going to contribute to this conversation maybe better than even I could. You have to leave the ego out of the door, and I think that's what the co-host does. And then secondly, I think what the co-host does is it creates that skin in the game and accountability that you don't have on your own. Both of us had started some like side projects and hustles before the Mafia was even a thing.
Dude.
And I just remember those things dying out. And I realized when I think about why we've had success, it's because I have you as a brother in arms. And I'm like, the most important thing for me is like, if I don't do my job and show up, I'm not just failing myself, I'm failing you too as my best friend.
Yeah. There's that layer of accountability, and it's just way more fun.
Yeah.
But
really quick, what would you say the vision of the show is now, 242 episodes in?
Yeah, the vision of the show now is to, like, we've gone through the process of meeting so many incredible people. I think the vision of the show now is to, like, bridge this, like, information base that we've built and the people that we've come across, and start to bring some of this stuff into real life and, like, really see it, like, be actionable and start to impact people in a way. Like, I feel like when you're early on, you're not really thinking about like the impact that you're going to have with the show. And now it's like, can this show reach more people? Can we start having conversations with guests that will really change the trajectory of the way things are moving? I mean, we're now officially in the media space. We now officially call ourselves podcasters because we've done over 200 episodes. So it's like, can we actually contribute to improving the food system in the way that we want to, and improving the health and happiness of people also. It's like, there's so many things that we probably want to tug on, but the center of everything, the core of everything is make people healthier. And I think that's kind of the core vision that we're going for now. Not that that was like anything that we weren't really aiming for at the beginning, but now it's like very clear. And how can we actually make that happen? Like, it's not just a pie in the sky. Is that how you say it?
Pie in the sky.
Dream. I think it's like pretty real now.
Yeah. I also think the future progression of the show is the term Back to the Future. And what I mean by that is, I felt like when we had the most heart and soul was in the beginning, where we didn't care about audience size. Like, of course you care a little bit if you get a big guest like a Dr. Baker or a Ken Berry, which were big wins at the beginning, but we didn't care if there was a rancher that had 150 followers. We were like, we just want to learn about regenerative ag in the meat industry from this person.
It's like Scott when he's preaching on Sunday. It's like there could be one person in the room, he's still going to preach.
Yes, dude, 100%. And that's what a church is. It doesn't matter. Yeah. It's what you make of that worship experience. And I don't think there's anything wrong with this, but I think when the show started to gain more velocity, there was this thought process of you're just always reaching for like the biggest guest you can get, or, hey, this person might not be super niche into Mafia, but they're really connected and maybe they could help us elevate the brand or connect us with more guests.
Yeah.
And I think we learned a lot from that experience. And the future of the show is capturing the heart and soul of why the show started, of going out to farms, meeting with ranchers, educating people on how they can nourish their bodies properly, teaching people about, regenerative ag and how we can fix the food system. So
100%.
Back to the Future. Part 2 is, what were the biggest needle movers for the show to attain its current reach?
Well, having an established Twitter following and using Twitter to me, seems like the most obvious one, what would you say?
Yeah, I would say Twitter is the best networking app that ever has and will exist.
100%.
And people have completely undervalued the value of a cold DM.
Absolutely.
We would cold DM we've probably gotten 150 plus guests from cold DMs alone. Also, what worked for us when we
what do you think our hit rate was or is on
60 to 70%? I would say.
I was gonna say higher.
You think higher? I could be
Maybe
wrong. But either way, dude. Think about a cold, like the average cold
totally.
outreach.
Yeah, totally. It's like
if it's over 20, that's fucking extraordinary.
Yeah.
So to be even if it's only 60 to 7, that's insane. Let alone like maybe you're saying 80 to 90% hit rate.
Yeah.
Also, too, there's something about the visibility of Twitter that Instagram and these other apps don't have. So what we would do is I would take a cool picture of the guest and I would say, hey, meet Mafia Harry. We'd love to have you on the show. You know, we're an up-and-coming nutrition podcast. We'd love to talk to you about your perspective on carnivore diet. What do you say, Harry?
Yeah.
And then I would post it.
All the time.
It worked all the time.
People thought we were like getting the guest booked on the side and then doing that.
Yes.
Like someone said, someone like called us out saying that that's what we were doing. And we're like, no, we're just like openly trying to get this guest on the podcast.
Totally. Also old school, but dude, referrals are worth their weight in gold.
Oh yeah.
So what I would do is if you have a guest coming on, go look at any of their other podcast experiences or people that they're connected to. And if they're of interest, bring that up after you have a great conversation. You can do it in a very conversational, non-transactional way. We've been referral junkies.
Yeah. 100%. I think it's a great lead in. A warm lead is worth its weight in gold, as you said.
Yeah. And also, Stephen Pressfield's book, Put Your Ass Where Your Heart Wants to Be. The thought process is like, if you want to be a banker, you need to be in New York. If you want to be in tech, you need to be in Silicon Valley. If you want to be an actor, you need to be in LA. If you want to be in the health and wellness space, you need to be in Austin, Texas. So the benefit of us both relocating here is that there's so many amazing health and wellness influencers, content creators, experts, whatever you want to call it. And we just go to events, pay money to go to events. Maybe we'll meet one person, but that one person could be a great podcast guest or know someone that could really help to benefit our show. And
I think this is the city where regenerative is happening at the largest scale for without question.
Totally. So Twitter, get in the DMs, tag people publicly, referrals, in-person events. If you can do that, you are going to be in an insane spot. And then eventually when you build a big enough following, people kind of will quickly look at your profile. I would say when you're over 10,000 followers, if you cold DM someone, they're going to be like, he's good to go. And then they'll just they'll accept it and come on the show. Yeah. I think just having extreme focus too. We just focused on Twitter and having Twitter podcasts. It wasn't Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all this, all the other things that you can focus on. Yes. It was a very basic formula. Super basic. Love it. Thank you, Austin. All right, question 2 is from our boy Nolan Wilson. Nolan. Host of the Tyro podcast. Tyro Experience? Tyro, we're going on it after this. I think it's Tyro Experience. I think it's Tyro Experience too. Apologies, Nolan. Sorry. He's a young dude, college baseball player, has incredible perspective in the health space. His show is blowing up. So Google Tyro Experience, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. He's incredible. His question is, if you could sit down for a steak dinner with 3 humans, dead or alive, who would you choose and why? You take that one first. I didn't write it. You wrote answers for this. Take this one. Do you want me to read it? No, I got it. You got it. I was saying Churchill. Yep. Hemingway and Bourdain. And the reason I chose those 3, first off, I think they're all 3 of them are well-traveled. They're adventurous. They would probably have the craziest stories to tell. Totally. And they all have an insane eye for beauty. And I think that they just appreciate life in this way that I know obviously Bourdain struggled with depression and things like that, but I think he had a unique understanding of life and what it meant to live a good life. And I think that's probably all 3 of those guys, just badasses. Wow. What do you think? I mean, terrible answer. No, I love it, dude. Roosevelt was such a G. People. Oh my gosh. For anyone that wants to Did I say Churchill the first time, or no? You said Roosevelt. Oh, you know what you said. You said Churchill. I meant Roosevelt. But sorry. Churchill would be your number 4 because I know Churchill's had a huge impact on you. Yes. Which is insane because I don't think a lot of people know this, but Churchill battled clinical depression his entire life. There were days where he wouldn't get out of bed until 11 o'clock in the morning. Well, I think, yes, but also the actual circumstances that he was under was insane. Can you imagine? No. Neither. It's unfathomable the pressure that he was under during
his
that World
country
War.
was on the line.
Yeah.
The continent was on the line.
And battled depression, kind of similar to Lincoln in some ways.
Yeah.
Lincoln was also depressed. A lot of people don't know that too. And then Roosevelt, if you want to learn about energy creation and harvesting to be a badass, literally just Google Teddy Roosevelt energy. There are a ton of articles and YouTube videos that talk about that. And people that met him said that he had the most captivating, spectacular energy of all time. Grew up, suffered from severe asthma, came from privilege, but he was like this kind of dwindly little guy.
Yeah.
And basically, like, I think his dad told him, like, you've beautified your mind, now you need to beautify your body. Strength training, boxing at Harvard, cold plunges, crazy hikes, expeditions. There's that amazing book,
River of Doubt.
The River of Doubt.
Dude, he goes to the Amazon.
Yes.
Well, first off, he was felt unfulfilled after his presidency, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And he was, 40? He was in his 40s after.
That's why he was
right?
unfulfilled, because he was such a young president. They
Wow.
said that his biggest issue is that he actually became president too young and accomplished too much at a young age. And also another guy, they said that when he was not doing anything, he would get depressed, which is why he preached the concept of the strenuous life, because he was always doing crazy stuff, because if he didn't, he would actually get depressed.
Yeah.
Which is nuts.
I mean, that book, River of Doubt, is great. I've gotten like halfway through, but
yeah,
it's an incredible insight into him.
Yeah. And also the rise of Teddy Roosevelt. It talks about like the first part of his life, another deep dive in his energy creation. Remember that hunting clip we were reading in that book?
Wild.
We should link to that in the show notes. I would say for living people, it would be, and I'm not just trying to fluff you up, it would be you, my dad, and my grandpa.
You're making me look like an asshole.
No, that's live. That's living.
Okay.
And then dead would be, I would say Jesus is number one for both of us too.
Jesus, yeah.
Well, that's implied number one. But outside of that, I would say I would do Roosevelt. I'm going to piggyback off you. Roosevelt, Alexander the Great, and Genghis Khan.
Wow.
For the most power stack trio of all time.
All right. What is that conversation looking like?
Dude,
who says the first word?
I think Teddy would go first word, honestly.
Would you give a toast?
I feel like Genghis would kind of like hang back.
He wouldn't say
and let
anything.
the other two guys do the talking.
Yeah.
I think
Didn't he like impregnate like half the world?
Yeah, I think 10% of Mongolia technically has lineage back to Genghis Khan, because he gave birth to like 1,000 kids apparently, because they would just capture these women and put them in concubines, and he would just have his way with them.
That's crazy.
Like 10% of Mongolia, dude, and I think 1% of Asia.
That
It's
has
actually,
to be the
it's
craziest
mind-blowing.
static ever.
Do I Google it right now?
Yes,
Google
it. Because if it's 10%.
How many kids did?
Take a short break here.
Oh, we're on
to talk about
Squatch Wi-Fi is tough right now. How crazy would that dinner be though?
I mean, it would be exciting. What do you think they would order for the table? Like,
I feel like Roosevelt would do like a bison ribeye.
He's classy.
Alexander the Great, something Mediterranean. Dude, Mongolians ate a ton of meat and milk.
Yeah, he would just have raw milk and just a fat ribeye.
Yeah.
A 2-pound Danny Miranda ribeye.
Yeah. Well, what was crazy is when he was conquering the world, they were going up against the Chinese that were mostly just eating grains, and the Mongolians were eating raw milk.
He was just snapping
meat,
their necks.
and but they were all giant.
Weren't they all on horseback?
They said that they had the craziest connection with their horses of all time.
Wow.
Historians have estimated that Genghis Khan bore several hundred children, upwards of potentially 1,000 or more.
I mean, that's insane.
1 in 200 people are related to Genghis Khan. 1 in 200 people in the world.
1 in 200 people in the world
have lineage to Genghis.
That's wild.
That man got busy.
Wow. Yeah.
Also, Dan
leverage.
Dan Carlin's Hardcore History podcast of the Mongols. If anyone wants an absolute, like the best podcast audiobook you've ever listened to,
it's that good.
It's that good.
Wow. Dan Carlin's a savage.
Yes, but you would be in my top 3 living, just so you know, and I'm not just trying to gas you up.
I appreciate that. We have steaks all the time.
So thank you, Nolan. So our boy, Danny Miranda, question number 3. If you know Danny, incredible podcaster, loves questions. He sent 6, I think. So we're going to
go rapid fire.
We're going to go rapid fire.
Yeah.
First question is, how is marathon prep going? Context for that is the three of us are doing the St. Jude's Marathon in Memphis in December.
Yes. Context also, Brett and I have trained for a bunch of races before. If you're a frequent listener to the show, you might know that. We've did the Ironman together to essentially start the entire show.
Yes.
We've run a few marathons since. We did a 100K last year. We have the 100K episode, which is an all-time classic of Brett and I recapping that race. So we've trained for these types of races before, and we are again going into this race with way too much confidence, way too much arrogance, and it's going to be a dogfight.
My one word is bloodbath.
Bloodbath.
I haven't ran more than 6 miles. So hopefully we'll be able to do a couple long runs. It may be a run, walk. Twisted my words there. Also, there is a ton of gold in being underprepared for things and actually stressing yourself out. When you're in that pure agony, that's where you actually learn about your mind. It's almost like a little mental chamber. It's like a lab for your mind. I think that's what Goggins says.
I kind of like this approach to the marathons that we're doing now, where it's like, do we have the time to train for this in the way that we would like to? Probably not. So let's just make it harder on ourselves, not train, and just rip it.
Yep. Love it.
I'm thinking I'm going sub 3.
I think you could do sub 257 maybe for you.
There's no shot.
Dude.
No.
Guys, Harry is a tall slab of meat, 6'4", 230, and this man can absolutely crank miles. So,
yeah, but not sub 3. So
soon. Train for it.
Maybe
We'll see.
Eventually.
All right. What is the most likely vice to break you? AKA, what does the worst version of you look like?
I mean, the most likely vice to break me, I don't know. Like,
Is there anything physical for you that would break you? I don't think it would.
No. I don't think so.
I don't think anything physical would break you.
I think it would probably be some sort of
mindset.
My answer
it would be an emotion.
Yeah.
It would be like
it would be cussing or something like is that even a vice?
I don't think that's
my vices are terrible.
No, you're no caffeine, no nicotine. You've done those things, but then you have this incredible ability where you will just quit cold turkey. Like some people will be like, hey, if you're going on 3 cups of coffee a day for an extended period of time, you should wean into it. You'll just cut yourself off.
Yeah.
You have like a 2-day buffer and then you're good to go and you're dialed in.
2-day buffer of just being a zombie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't have a good answer for this one, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't know. So I didn't read the part of will it break you? I mean, caffeine and nicotine for me is just something that I need to get under control in full transparency.
Yeah.
And I justify it because I just love the feeling of being high energy and hard charging. And I view these things as aids to that mindset or that energy that I want to embody.
Yeah.
But my problem is that I just have a tendency to over abuse things, but I still don't think it would break me.
No, I don't think
That's
so
the
at
thing.
all. No.
I think it would be more of a mindset of just leaning into fear or depression or lack of faith in God. I think faith of God is probably the only thing that could break a human.
Yeah. Yeah. You're saying lack of faith.
A lack of faith.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, if God's the only thing you fear, you're in control, baby.
Yeah, you can't be broken when you know that there's something so much better that's going to happen after this.
Yeah.
Literally being filled and baptized in the Holy
You're just
Spirit.
not afraid of man.
You're not afraid of man. So you're unbreakable. All right, question 3 from Danny. What is the most important habit for you to hit to be successful?
I mean, recently it's been getting like a really good night's sleep and trying to get to bed at the same time.
Yes.
And not having my phone in the room.
Yeah.
Like that's been, I was telling you this the other day. Like this summer was basically not sleeping.
Yep. Cranking.
And this fall I've been like, I need to set some boundaries on my time. And it was essentially like the summer, I think, was probably me just not being very good at time management. Also us just having a bunch of stuff going on. But then this fall, I'm like, if I can get 8 hours, I can do way better work, higher quality, and just be more deliberate with my time. Done deal. So right now, sleeping and setting boundaries with phone.
Yeah, I remember when Ben Smith came on the podcast, he was like, if you can't prove to me as a founder that you can get 7-8 hours of sleep, I don't think you're going to be successful. And it kind of triggered me a little bit when he first said it, because the natural response to that is like, well, I'm working so hard, I don't have time for 7-8 hours. And it's like, dude, you have time. You realize how much fucking time you piss away on your phone? Some days I'll see 5 to 6 hours on my phone.
Yeah.
And some of that's work, but a lot of that's just bullshit scrolling too.
Yeah. Well, I also think founders should try to play the game of like, how can I make this business as successful as possible without having to do crazy amounts of work. Like, think higher, think bigger, like come up with systems that save you time instead of spend your time.
Yes.
So
I would say for me, very quickly, just not being negative with my words in terms of cursing, and then also just the way that I respond to situations.
Yeah.
And selectively choosing to either be positive or neutral. Like, there are so many moments of wanting to be like, oh, Harry, this sucks, or hey, remember when this person did that? And I'm not great at it yet, but I've just been working to be like, can I hold back some of these negative comments?
Yeah. That's a great call. Discipline of the Tongue, that book that we're reading, Disciplines of a Godly Man, Discipline of the Tongue is the hardest one. It's the hardest one because there's some release of like, complaining or stuff like that you feel better just bitching about it or even just discipline of like not cussing, even though I just did that.
I already did multiple times, so
it gives you power. It's like all these things. You're giving your power away when you give in to not having a discipline to do these certain things.
100%.
So
there was a great, it might have been Dale Carnegie, one of those old school self-improvement guys, but they had a challenge. You know what? It was Norman Vincent Peale in The Power of Positive Thinking. I think he has a 3-day challenge where you cannot say anything negative for 3 days.
Wow. And let's do that.
Let's do it.
Do you want to do it?
Let's do it.
Starting now? Right.
Handshake.
Now. Hold on.
Can we reach?
Yep.
We're reaching.
Gotcha.
All right. Handshake.
Done.
Cool. All right. This is a great question.
Yep.
What's been the greatest moment of joy between you and Meat Mafia Harry that few people might know about?
Do you have a good one?
Harry's little brother living with us for almost 6 months. What's classic?
It was the best. That was the best.
That was the best. Fresh college graduate, best dude ever. Your little brother. I've never had brothers, obviously, so I view you like a brother. Now I view him like a little brother. It was just so much fun. Grilling steaks, driving the car, road tripping, setting up all the podcasts ourselves. May have been a few bowel movements in a certain cast member's pants that has a GI disease. We will not say who that is.
We can't make fun of.
Fully deposited into his Lululemon sweatpants, but that's a question for another day.
Never to be seen again.
Never to be seen again. Threw his shoes into the woods. Anyways, back on track. I would say that. I would say the run walk that we did on the Charlestown River in Boston before we ever did the full Ironman. You and I had been super close in college, disconnected, reconnected up in Boston, had this amazing walk run. It was the first run that you did leading up to the Ironman prep. And we just talked about everything, where we were going in our lives, and we both had this common fear of not tapping into our potential.
Yeah.
And if we only knew what it was all going to lead into, I think we would be pretty happy with the outcome.
For sure. I think another one for me was the first time I told you this after a podcast once. I said, I wish I had said this on the podcast because we were talking about this story, but when we were living in the Airbnb together, back when we were training for the Ironman, you were like, I was starting to write online a little bit, and you were just like, I really want to, I'm interested in potentially sharing my story a bit, or I forget how the conversation started. And I was like pushing you. I was like, gotta do it.
Yep.
You've got to do it. And then the next day you had something, and I was just like, all right, this is the kind of guy that will actually just like completely follow through and do something. So I don't think this answers the question at all, actually, but that was a moment where I was just like, we're gonna have something special between the two of us.
Yeah, there have just been so many amazing moments that probably just escape our brains too, of just, long walks after a podcast, or you just get these moments along the way. You know what? I actually have another good one too. I'm such a long-winded bastard. God.
Keep it up. No, it's good.
Okay.
We only have 24 questions to get through.
When people say, "Oh, what's one of your favorite podcast episodes?" I think we typically default to Taylor Collins. Number one, he is one of our heroes. Number 2 was at his ranch, which was very special. We got to know a bunch of his bison harvests. But number 3 that most people don't know is that period of time for me, you would quit your job for a while.
Yeah.
This was July of last year. I was in the heart of trying to build out our thing while also trying to maintain a corporate job, flying back and forth. We weren't making money. I just remember having this feeling before the podcast of like, what am I doing? Like, do we really think that we can make this work? And then after that podcast, we were driving back in your Ford Explorer with CJ. And I just remember thinking, like, no matter what happens, nothing will be better than the feeling of doing this with you.
No, dude.
That's
100%.
That's something I'll never forget.
Another one, just to continue this long-winded response to this question.
We're not short-winded guys.
No, that's why we do the podcast. When Khalil invested in Noble,
100%.
Dude, I mean, I cried I cried. I was literally just like, that was like the moment for me. I was like, we're doing it.
Yeah, we're doing the damn thing.
It started to become real.
Yeah, that was the day of, that was June 28th, so it was my 29th birthday. And I remember him saying that he was in for $50K. He was our first big investor, founder of Sun Life Organics, incredible smoothie shop. It was the first smoothie shop we went into in Austin. There's 15 locations around the country. And you just get these physical moments, these like a proof of concept of this is really happening. Yeah. God is really blessing us right now.
Yeah.
That's a great one.
I think we also had a bunch of like, we just had felt like we put a lot into what we were doing at that point. So it was exciting.
Totally. All right. What is the most important lesson for your children to know?
Pursue God with all your might.
Yep. Done.
That's the answer.
I literally said developing a relationship with Christ and having high integrity are literally the only two other things that matter. I have a good...
And raise your standards.
Raise your standards. And to that point, our buddy Cole, shout out Cole, he just moved to Austin about a month ago from North Carolina. He's quickly become one of our absolute boys. Amazing dude.
Literally 2 months. He's like one of our best friends.
Also the most interesting man in the world. We're trying to get him on the podcast. He does not want to do it, but we're going to keep pushing. And when you guys hear some sound bites of this guy's story and the things that he's done, it's going to blow your mind. But he always told me, one of the things that I noticed about him is that he's so talented at so many different things.
Yeah.
Maybe not talented, but excellent at so many different things. Olympic alternate wrestler for the U.S. wrestling team, All-American wrestler at NC State, fought in Bellator, was a Christian missionary, absolutely crushing it in his tech sales job, has a leather company, has a beer company he's starting up.
Did you say ultra marathons?
Ultra marathons. Did the Hurt 100, bonked in front of Goggins. Sorry, Cole. He loves it, though. And I just said to him, I was like, why are you so... I was like, are you just a talented human? Are you a hardworking human? And I'll never forget what he said to me. He just looked me in the eyes and said, my dad, rural farmer, North Carolina country boy, he just had very high standards for us growing up. And he said the only rule that he had was you have to be good or exceptional at everything, but you need to be the best in the world at one thing, whatever that craft is for you. And I just feel like that's a really good lesson to pass along to your kids.
Unreal.
So non-father perspective, but something that we hope to eventually pass along to our kids.
One day.
All right. We'll keep this super quick. If you were forced to repeat one sentence repeatedly for 15 minutes every day for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Do everything with love.
You would put that on a billboard if you could.
Yeah, for sure. Means something to me. I mean, that was in my grandma's kitchen. That's my thing.
Duck.
I would never get a tattoo, but if I were to get a tattoo,
do everything with love.
Yeah.
Did she so she wrote that letter to, who did she write the letter to? Did you pull it from a letter? I remember your brother sent you, and your older brother sent either you or Reagan.
It was to my oldest cousin. Yeah.
Yeah, do everything with love.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
She was an incredible woman. She was from middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, grew up during the Great Depression. Her brother went to World War II, fought in D-Day. Her brother survived, came back, was emotionally distraught after going through D-Day, and he was like never the same. But she got out of her small town and ended up having an amazing life outside of DC. But yeah, she's just a true matriarch, pioneering woman. She was incredible.
What do you think made her so amazing?
She had true grace. She was just like the type of person that you just saw this like aura and energy around her. Always positive, true, like judgment and discernment around life. I think she was just grew up during the Great Depression and was just knew how to like make very good decisions. And yeah, she's an incredible woman.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I just have amazing memories with her.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Duck.
She's
Shout
a G.
out Duck. Well, I'm sure she's looking down at you.
What about you?
Incredibly proud. We will not fail.
We will not fail. I love that.
Yeah. And I'll think about that till the day that I die, because we will not
Where
fail.
does that come from? Is that just your own mantra?
So I was listening to Jocko's podcast with JP Donnell, and so Jocko was task unit commander for TU Bruiser, I think it was called. And the two guys that were under him were Leif Babin, who he runs Echelon Front, their leadership consulting business with now. And then the other guy that a lot of people don't know about is Seth Stone. And Seth was Jocko's best friend, so they served together for a long time. Seth was an amazing surfer, musician. Apparently he was just good at everything. And he did that, he would do the type of jumping where he would jump off of a bridge and then he would pull the parachute. He was like an adrenaline junkie.
Wow.
And I guess in 2017, the parachute didn't deploy properly and he ended up dying. So he did multiple deployments, but it was like the parachute jump that killed him. And I went to Jocko's live podcast in either 2018 or 2019 when I was living in New York. And the whole first part of the podcast were just a series of letters that he wrote to Seth and his journey through the grieving process. And it was moving. Like, there wasn't a dry eye in the crowd. Everyone was just so emotionally touched by their friendship and the impact that he had with Seth. And I think it was probably really relatable to anyone that's gone through a loss with a close friend or a family member. And then when Jocko recorded the podcast with JP Donnell, I re-listened to it, I think when we were coming back from our Vegas trip last week. And one of the things that JP Donnell said was that after Seth's service in 2017, it was Jocko, Leif, and JP. And Seth oversaw JP, and all Jocko did was he pulled them close together and just said, "We will not fail." And it was like the most power. I had chills and tears in my eyes after he said that. And It just makes me think about everything we're doing now and just all the challenges and adversity that the average person is going through. And I think just reminding yourself that we will not fail is super important.
Incredible.
Yeah. All right. So our boy Ryan Griggs, shout out Ryan Griggs, Austin local, one of our boys, best guys that we know. He's the founder of the Regenaissance, which is an organic clothing line supporting regenerative farming.
Yes.
He also just started his own podcast, the Regenaissance podcast. We're recording with him tomorrow, October 27th. He said, what has been the best part of your journey so far since last January besides meeting me?
Since last January.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the highlights for me was us out at Rome Ranch at the beginning of this year. That was sweet.
That was incredible.
Also recording with Will Harris in his pond house. That was ridiculous. Just that whole road trip back home, potentially.
I promise I was going to say the same exact thing.
The road trip?
Yeah. So for anyone that didn't know,
that was epic.
That was epic. So Harry's family is in Virginia. Mine's in New Jersey. So we decided that we were going to just get in a car and drive back home for Christmas, and we were going to make a podcast roadshow out of it. We thought about maybe doing a documentary, too close timeline. Documentary will happen.
Will happen.
ETA in the future to be determined, but it will happen. And we were like, let's just record the best possible podcast we can and have the most fun ever. So we got Will Harris on, who you mentioned, White Oak Pastures, OG, the legend of the regen farming space. Joel Salatin, also the OG, legend of the regen farming space. Michael Chandler. We went out to Counterculture Farms. We went to Dr. Brooke Miller at Ginger Hill Angus. We sat down with Joe Manaply, all-star MLB pitcher.
Playoff. He didn't get the win last night.
He didn't get the win, but he got 2 outs, though.
2 outs. Huge.
Yeah. Incredible.
It was unbelievable.
That episode on mindset and performance was so good.
Yeah. I feel like that one got overlooked.
It did.
He has a pitcher in the MLB has the best, most unique perspective on mindset you could possibly imagine, let alone a pitcher who gets his breakthrough moment late into his career. Like, that guy is a dog when it comes to figuring out his own mental abilities and physical abilities. He's gotten every last drop out of his physical abilities.
Yeah, I don't think he was super high recruited out of high school. And he just
think it was.
cranked at Vatek, had a great career. My neighbor was actually teammates with him and was a low-level draft pick in just mindset. Dude, that's what all these guys talk about is everyone in pro ball is so talented, but it's the guys that have that superior mindset. So if anyone wants to increase their perspective on performance, whether you're an athlete or a non-athlete, you just want to up your game in the business, just go to Spotify, type in Meat Mafia, Joe Manaply, and listen to that episode. It was incredible. But
Fantastic.
was there anyone else that we recorded with? Oh, Dr. Brittany McGetrick on female hormone health.
She was
that was
incredible.
Insane.
That was Casey's favorite episode
That was
of the
one of
whole
our-
trip.
That might be his most favorite episode ever.
I think it was.
He's 20% too much, but
Yeah.
that's fine. That was a mind-blowing episode. And also, if anyone is listening to this has any badass female guests, we're super passionate about digging into female hormone health, especially from a male perspective. So please send over, DM us any recommendations that you have. We'd love to have more female guests on the show.
And what you mean by from a male perspective is we have no idea anything about female hormone health. So
We have zero clue.
No, we have a PhD level understanding.
Yeah. Cervical wellness. That was a good podcast
was
too.
insane.
Janelle Randall. Danelle Randall. I think that was but yeah, it was an epic road trip.
Kaylee also.
Kaylee.
She's incredible.
Oh, Rod from Bitcoin Park we recorded with too.
Rod too. How do we forget Rod?
Legend.
That was
Anyone in
legendary.
Nashville, check out Bitcoin Park. It's this incredible Bitcoin co-working
The
event
Mecca?
space. They literally bought out Florida Georgia Line's old office and recording studio and turned it into this incredible Bitcoin
It's
compound.
unbelievable.
And they're the best people you'll ever meet too.
Rod he might be the best person of all time.
He's one of the most hospitable, incredible humans that we've met.
Yeah.
That's another thing why anyone listening to this that's interested, you should start a podcast. You will meet the best people of all time by doing a show.
It's such low risk. We did all of our early episodes on Zoom.
150 episodes on Zoom with no microphones. If you go back to our early episodes, it sounds like I was talking through a wind tunnel.
Yeah. Dude, it really did.
Yeah. But that for me too, to echo what you said, that road trip is just one of the most special memories. Just so much fun, sleeping in these random hotels in Louisiana, going to Luau Pig number 2, leaving because the food was so bad in a torrential downpour in Louisiana.
Luau
But
pick number 2. And then we went to Hop Dotty,
we did go to Hop Dotty,
which was great.
and
Shout out.
the two
Matt
people in the
Schweitzer.
back were not happy about that.
No.
Yeah, but shout out Matt Schweitzer. He's coming back on for a part 2, head of culinary at Hop Dotty.
Next week.
He's
Right.
another big guy, dude. He's
Big
bigger
dude.
than you.
Big dude
Strong
can
and
run.
fast.
Yeah, he's a beast.
He
He's a freak athlete. He was like a hockey player.
He played football at University of San Diego, and I think he was recruited to play a second sport. I forget if it was baseball or something else, but he's a stud.
Yeah. I think it might have been hockey.
And Hop Dotty they have a whole regenerative burger chain.
Yeah.
So if you're in Austin or beyond and see a Hop Dotty, support them. They're incredible.
All
right.
right. What do we got next here?
Peter Conley,
Love this
any
guy.
plans to launch an apparel brand eventually?
I mean, we'll do merch for sure,
Yeah.
but I don't think strictly apparel.
Yeah.
Merch for sure.
Definitely
We're going to
merch.
kill merch.
You've got some good merch ideas that are cooking up.
Yeah, we just need to get them out.
Guys, it's going to come soon for anyone that's interested.
Merch soon.
People
merch
love those
soon.
steak shirts that we made.
Yeah. It's
So
good stuff.
I think for us too, if we do it, it needs table stakes are all U.S. made, only organic cotton and linen. There's so much room in that space for clean clothing companies.
Oh, yeah.
But also there's already a ton of badass brands doing it. Like we said, Ryan's clothing company, Regenaissance. Just Google the Regenaissance clothing. All organic cotton, high quality clothes. Their shorts are incredible. I just bought 3 pairs last week. I've been wearing them around every single day. And then also Jocko's company, Origin. They're doing U.S. manufacturing at scale in the apparel industry. Badass boots, jeans, hunting gear, T-shirts. We don't work with them at all. We just love their stuff and their mission.
We might have to link that video that we watched in the back of that Uber
Oh my gosh.
in Vegas. That was insane.
Yeah, we'll link to it, but Origin's YouTube channel is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
U.S. manufacturing for clothing and apparel is wild, how much we just outsource overseas. So what these guys did is they started making these high quality gis. Pete Roberts is actually the founder, and then he partnered with Jocko. But he noticed when he was trying to order these gis for Origin, when he first started the company, he was like, I can't get any affordable pricing or even just quotes in the U.S. outside of the U.S. or the Middle East. Why is that? So they've been on this absolute mission to just bring back U.S. manufacturing into the States.
Wow.
And so they started in Maine. They literally were buying these old, decrepit mills that had been sitting there for like 50 plus years, bringing jobs back to the U.S. All their cotton is made in Texas. There's another thing that's made in Georgia. And then they also started buying other companies, old manufacturing companies and gene companies in North Carolina, learning from the veterans that have done this so long.
Yeah.
Awesome episode. Pete's episode on Jocko. We're trying to get Pete on. He verbally accepted, but we'll do a really good episode on clothing. So appreciate you, Pete. All right, our boy Mike White, also ATX based. How has your definition of success changed, if at all, over the last 2 years?
My definition of success now is serving God through doing excellent work and being a giver and provider, as opposed to a taker.
I love that. That's simple. Yeah, mine is.
Keep it simple today.
Yeah, mine would be, that would be part A for me, and part B would be back in the day. By back in the day, I mean 2 years ago. My identity was so wrapped in corporate America around like the money that I had in my bank account, 401k. I almost viewed these things as like this protective bubble. And then once we broke that mold to start the show and like literally had skin in the game where I'm like, we need capital for the business. I'm selling my 401k. I'm burning all the money in my checking account. That was like just overcoming that hurdle. Almost felt like a superpower in some ways.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to romanticize like the, hey, just sell everything and be an idiot. But the feeling of like overcoming these mental hurdles and just focusing on just simply, I just want to get paid to do what I love fearlessly. I think that for me is probably how I'd answer part B of the question.
Yeah.
Not getting paid, or getting paid to do what I love fearlessly.
That's unbelievable.
So thank you, Mike.
Mike, we need to see, Mike, if you're listening, we need to see you at some of these runs, okay?
You need to see me at these runs.
Stop studying. Yeah, you too.
I got it.
All right.
What we're going to start doing is Harry's an absolute maniacal masochist wizard when it comes to early morning workouts. Like I'll literally hear him ready to go at like 3:45 in the morning, 4:40 in the morning. I have to unlock. We live together, if you didn't know this. My door needs to be unlocked, and if I sleep through my alarm, he's just going to start banging on my door until I wake
just
up.
Bull rush you.
That's what I need.
Yeah, done.
Agua Apostle. He or she says, eating right on a budget.
Agua Apostle, guy.
Yeah. Sorry, Agua Apostle. Great question. He says, eating right, ... on a budget. Where can I cut corners and still be all right? For example, grain-fed versus grass-fed. What do you consider the utmost important to foods to avoid skimping on, and where can I go for the cheaper option?
Okay. Here's where we'll start. Good, better, best.
Warren methodology.
So when we say Warren methodology, we're talking about Ann and Weldon Warren out at Holy Cow Beef in Lubbock, Texas, some of our favorite friends of the show. So they have this model called good, better, best when it comes to sourcing from your meat. So basically good is anything that you get from any grocery store that is a meat or beef-based product is going to be better than any sort of processed food that you could get from the grocery store. Better is going to be grass-fed, grain-finished, or grass-fed, grain-finished, and then best is going to be regenerative. And there's a cost component to all of that, and the nutrition component is you're going to be better off just eating real foods in general. Specifically for this question, though, like if you're going carnivore, just get what you can, and then start tweaking for quality as you can start making some of those changes. And I think you realize once you start eating that way, through the elimination process of eliminating the garbage, you really realize that like you need to be making these changes in your life and that it's going to have a long-term cost savings. And then you start to justify being like, all right, I'm going to now start to upscale a little bit and start getting higher quality beef, start to get to figure out, who is my farmer? What sort of questions do I need to understand in terms of what do I need to ask them? Where can I get all the different things that I want, whether it's raw milk, fresh eggs, those types of things.
Yeah, I would say, to piggyback off what you said, you should not be touching the inner aisle of the grocery store at all outside of getting good quality spices, coffee if you drink it, and then good quality mineral water. Outside of that, you should be living in the outer aisle of the grocery store. That's where all the Naval has this quote of if it doesn't die, it's not real food.
Yeah.
And that's something that we stick to. To your point, the shittiest quality grain finished beef is going to be better than anything in the inner aisle of the grocery store.
Definitely.
You have to optimize at the end of the day for what's best for your budget. We both spend a significant amount of our monthly income on food just because we prioritize it, because we know how it makes us feel. It's a holistic asset at the end of the day. The data that we've seen is starting to come out that objectively grass-finished beef is more nutrient-dense than grain-fed beef. If you don't believe me, check out Stefan Van Vliet's research that he's doing at Utah State.
Yeah.
The issue is that a lot of this data really hasn't been available the last 2 decades. Now we're getting to a point where ranchers can actually take samples of their meat and send it to these labs to get studied. And dude, the omega-3 to omega-6 ratios are insane. People are finding out that apparently grass-finished bison has more omega-3s than wild-caught salmon, which is
crazy.
insane. So I think our perspective on this is going to change a lot.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, optimize for what's in your budget. There's definitely more slack that you can get away with grain-finished beef. The omega-6 profile of factory and conventional chicken is pretty appalling.
Yeah.
It's really hard to verify good quality chicken at a grocery store. It actually doesn't exist. Even if it says organic chicken, that just means organic corn and soy fed chicken.
Yeah.
Beef you can get from a grocery store, preferably from a local farm, but chicken is one of those things where either a great D2C service, farmer's market, or local rancher, and actually ask them what they're feeding their chickens.
Yeah. And to your point, it's about what you're not eating in a lot of this.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me see. Is there anything else? Yeah. No seed oils, no sugars, and no processed grains, which is essentially everything in the inner aisle. They're just combining these things. Yeah. And if you need help finding a local farmer, eatwild.com is amazing. I feel like we should be getting paid by them at this point, but it's literally, it's like this janky little website made by Weiss and A. Price, but it's so good. Zip code, and it will show you meat, milk, eggs, chicken, pork in your area.
Yeah. It's an insanely good resource.
It's that simple.
It's that good.
Also, if you ever have questions on finding a local ranch, just DM us. We'll get back to you. We'll give you a bunch of options local to you so we can get you in the game. All right. Question number 7. Actually, no, however many Danny asked. This is probably like 13.
13?
Why Bitcoin only? He's asking tips and tricks for how you monetize the podcast and turned it into a legitimate income source. Bonus if you're willing to disclose the amount you're making from sponsors so up-and-comers can have an idea of what to expect when launching their own. But if that's private, totally understandable. My perspective on this is that what you see on social media are vanity metrics. I think follower count means absolutely nothing. We've met people that have had good sized followings, 50 to 75,000 plus followers on Instagram and Twitter that make almost no money. They portray themselves as monetizing off the platform, but they're really just like scraping by off affiliate revenue. And I've come across accounts that have a few thousand followers that are making really good money. It's all about building an audience and then figuring out what your particular vehicle is. Yeah. I think our buddy Miles Schneider is a really good example of that, where he has a decent sized following on Twitter. I don't know what it is, maybe 13,000, 20,000, something like that. It's a nice size following, but he's brilliant at cooking, especially for the everyday chef that wants to up their cooking game. He launched this 80-20 cooking cohort class and crushed it. He's absolutely crushing it with that cohort. And he just found the exact right niche. Full transparency for us right now, I think the podcast is at around like 7 to 8K in monthly revenue from a few of our sponsors. Our show does about 35,000 downloads a month. Most sponsors most large companies will consider pretty much anything under 100,000 monthly downloads is pretty low.
Yeah.
So podcasting is just one of those things where it's a slow, strenuous crawl, but when you build out a big show, the opportunities that come to you are amazing. It's not like Instagram or Twitter or one thread or one viral post will get you 50,000 followers. It's, you could have Joe Rogan on, and it would probably spike that listener, the episode downloads, but it's not going to grow the show that much.
Yeah, I would say the key really for us has been finding the niche and then building relationships with our audience, and then building relationships with people within our industry who could potentially be a sponsor one day. I mean, there's people that we've had on the show or businesses that we've come into contact with just through having the show that could one day be a sponsor. They would be a good fit, but right now maybe it just doesn't make sense. So that relationship building component of it all is huge. I mean, just get started doing it now, even though you don't even if you do have a small audience, I would just say go out and just try to make those relationships now, so that when the day comes, you've basically just pre-identified who you want to have as a sponsor potentially.
Yeah. What I would recommend to what you just said is get affiliate codes for like 3 brands that you absolutely love, that you can't live without. Get an affiliate code and just perform above and beyond. Connect with their social media manager, their chief marketing officer, maybe even the founder if it's a smaller company. Connect with them on a call and just go all in for them. Just over exceed, build the relationship, stay in contact with them. And then as you grow, those relationships will manifest in different ways. Also, I think for podcasting, it's important too to find other sources of income.
Definitely.
So for us, what we noticed, there were a few of our early sponsors that said, hey, you guys do great work on Twitter. We feel like this is a great way to grow our audience and customer base, but we don't really know what to do. Will you guys manage our Twitter accounts for us? And so we just threw out like a random monthly retainer number that we thought was reasonable. They were like, yeah, this checks out. We're like, okay, cool. We have a whole business. So behind the scenes, we've built out this marketing agency where we work with probably about 10 brands in the health and wellness space that are really niche, meat-focused brands mostly, and we help run their Twitter accounts. And the way that we view that is we're leveraging our skill set to grow on Twitter for products that we believe. And every time we write a piece of content for these brands that goes viral or does really well, that's a customer that's choosing to purchase their product versus conventional crap. So someone that orders a meat-based bar, they're not going to order a Cliff Bar. They're going to order a meat-based bar. It's growing the movement overall. So those other income sources have been huge, but have a great show, have a great niche, start with those 3 core affiliates, overperform, and really good things will happen.
I love that piece of advice for the affiliates.
Yeah, just go above and beyond. We were taking calls with everyone, every brand that we liked in the beginning, and they would be like, guys, you're way too slow or way too small, but we really like you. We really like you guys a lot.
Yeah.
And then now we're in a position where we're starting to be able to work with them on a more serious basis.
Yeah, definitely.
And we're still early as hell in the game.
Early.
Our show is small for a lot of these brands, but it's niche-y. That's the benefit of when you do something really niche-y that's in line with your passions, you're going to get a really niche-y audience. So even though our downloads are smaller, our conversion rate on affiliates is pretty high, which makes them justify the cost of what they pay us.
Yes.
All right. So Bunny Shankman wants to know, Brett, are you still med-free from IBD, looking for encouragement for an adult son? He recently tried carnivore for 5 weeks and it didn't go well. So to answer the question, yes, I'm still drug-free with IBD. I've been off of Remicade, which is the biologic drug I've been taking for almost 2 years. March of 2024 will officially be 2 years off of those drugs. And I feel, I feel like I'm in some of the best shape of my life. I've had 2 mini flare-ups since getting off of those drugs. Nothing super crazy, just increased urgency to go to the bathroom, a little bit of blood in the stool. For me in particular, I know that stress and lifestyle plays a huge part of when I get sick and when my stomach gets more active. So both periods of time was stressed out, was traveling too much, was not sleeping well, and was probably consuming too much caffeine. I think that played into it. What I typically do is I actually create a healing journal, which is something I learned from Dane Johnson and Jordan Rubin, who wrote The Maker's Diet. And all you do is you very meticulously track your meals, exactly what you ate, the time of day, and then you take it a step further of detail of your bowel movements, which is super important when you're in a flare-up. So for example, if I drank a coffee at 8:30 in the morning and then I went to the bathroom at 8:45, I'm going to write that down. I'm going to tally up my bowel movements. It sounds extreme, but when you're healing and in a flare-up, this is the stuff that you need to do. And the reason why it's so important is that it helps you build pattern recognition. So you will start to realize, okay, I ate these things and did these things. Maybe I only got 5 hours of sleep. My stomach was really flared up. And then you start to cut out, again, addition by subtraction. Mm-hmm. That's super helpful. And then also with your bowel movements, if your son is having blood in his stool, I would make a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the most extreme of what do those bloody symptoms look like. That was massive for me. And so anytime I ever go into a mini flare, I get the healing journal out. I'm going strict carnivore. Red meat, eggs, bone broth, butter, beef tallow, salt, probably not spices if he's in a strong flare-up. And I would make him cook his meals for a month and just stick to those foods. And I would be shocked if he didn't feel significantly better. The tough thing about this question is I don't know what didn't go well means. I don't know if, some people, when they go carnivore, they don't eat enough fat.
Right.
Some people are still incorporating other foods and they don't realize it. Some people, their electrolytes are way too low, so they feel like crap when they're switching from a glucose burning state to a fat burning state. So those are all things to keep in mind, but feel free to DM me and we can talk through it and try and get them squared away.
What was it about the healing journal that actually like helped you kind of steer the ship?
I think for me, I started realizing that there's something with the colon in particular. When you're in a flare-up, you go to the bathroom more in the morning, and then I was noticing it was tapering off. And I was realizing that when I would eat later in the day and I wouldn't sleep enough, my colon would be way more active in the morning, where if I would either eat a meal by like 6 or just drink bone broth for dinner and get like 7-8 hours of sleep, my stomach would be way more clear and feel way better the next day. So it's that pattern recognition.
Cool.
Yeah. When I first went carnivore too, I was noticing that dark leafy greens I was doing like meat and greens, which is what Jordan Peterson did. And I realized, hey, these greens are causing me some GI distress.
Yeah.
Cut them out. Felt really good. So,
Unreal.
All right. The Real Bera is asking us, are there any high quality protein powders you'd recommend? Do you know of a protein powder company, Harold?
I think I know of one. Noble Origins, for one. That's our product. So we're going to just put our product out there. Obviously, we have, a ton of questions about protein through the show. Most people were either asking us about sourcing high quality beef or what sort of protein powder should we use. So this is a question we got all the time, and it was really the genesis for us starting Noble Origins. Was we just kept getting the question. And so we were excited to put a product out there that was actually very high quality, had things in there that other protein powders didn't have. So it's beef protein isolate, collagen, colostrum, and then it has an organ complex in it as well. Chocolate and vanilla flavor, tastes great. The one thing I would say about Noble is, it's simple. You can take 1 scoop, 21 grams of protein after your workout. You could take it as kind of like a meal replacement as well, and you're good to go. Get a little extra protein in there. I think the recommended amount of protein you're supposed to get a day is like for every 1 pound of body weight, your ideal body weight is it should be 1 gram of protein. I think that's probably like ballpark-ish, right, for most people. Maybe like 10% here or there. But I think it's good advice, and I think that means that most people probably should be adding in more animal-based protein or supplementing with some sort of animal-based protein powder. Noble's great. There's a few other brands too. Equip Foods, amazing beef protein isolate.
Paleo Valley has a great bone broth protein and also a grass-fed whey protein powder too.
Yep.
A lot of wheys don't digest well in the gut. Theirs does.
Yep.
And the nice thing about Noble too is that because the protein is coming from the muscle tissue and the ligaments of the cow versus the milk, it's really low calorie but very high protein, like you mentioned. So 1 scoop has 21 grams of grass-fed protein, but it's only 85 calories.
Yeah.
So the beautiful thing about Noble is like if you're someone that needs to up your calories, you can mix in raw milk, bananas, whatever you like to throw into your shake, and you can make something really calorically dense that's like 600, 700 calories. Or you could just drink it with water or with coffee, and it's only going to be 85 calories for a scoop or 40-ish calories for a half scoop too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great little convenient hack, just having that high quality protein powder.
Totally. All right. So our boy L. Jacob Weiss, who is our old Babson baseball teammate, legend, lives in LA.
Love you.
One of the best teammates and just gamers that I've ever played with. Said, can you help me explain the benefits of regenerative farming to someone that's unfamiliar?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I think regenerative farming in general is just a system of farming that raises food in line with nature. And what that means is these ranchers aren't going to be using any sort of external factors to influence what they're going to be doing on the land. They won't be spraying chemicals, no pesticides, herbicides, synthetic fertilizers, which means that, they're really limiting the damage that they're doing to the soil from a chemical perspective, but then they're also not tilling the soil, and tilling is just driving this machine through the soil to seed different parts of the field. And the problem with tilling is that you go deep into the ground, you uproot the roots of all the different things that you're going to be growing on the fields, and you essentially dry out the topsoil. and it kills a lot of the life in the soil. So regenerative agriculture is really centered around just restoring the life to the soil. And what that does is it brings to life this whole ecosystem that lives on the soil. So when you allow animals to start to be more involved with restoring soil quality and nutrient cycling, you see the different aspects of the mycelium, like mycelium network, which is fungi and those types of species, and insects and things like that, all starting to live in harmony in this like very microscopic soil microbiome. And once that has a lot of life in it, then it stores more water, carbon, pulls carbon out of the atmosphere, it fixates nitrogen. It's an incredible process, and it's simply using different types of animals to play different types of roles on your farm so that you don't have to use chemicals. I think that's how I would explain it to like a kid.
Yeah. Joel Salton says it's this beautiful choreography that goes on.
Yeah.
So my recommendation, Jake, is I would actually find a local farm near you in LA. There's a couple good ones. Perennial Pastures is in San Diego, so you'd have to take a little drive, but still worth it. And when you go out there, you see the cows, you see the chickens, you see all these different animals almost working in harmony together.
Yeah.
Whereas, and it's actually additive to nature, like you said, where industrial farming is extremely detractive, and it's focused on just juicing as much profit out of the individual crop or individual animal. So like these massive feedlots that cows get associated with, that's such a stark contrast to what a cow would be doing on a regenerative farm.
Yeah.
But the best thing to do is just go out and see it for yourself.
See it for yourself.
So our friend Jaylene, Austin-based, wants to know, in the beginning, how did you all end up partnering together? What were those conversations like? Also note, we have like a 10-minute time check, so we're going to breeze through these last couple.
We're going to go quickly. Well, the beginning was the Ironman.
Yep.
We originally we had finished the race. I was down here working on a potential partnership opportunity. It was the thing that I was focused on, big project for me, relationship that I really wanted to get tapped into. You were watching from afar, still working your corporate job. I think we both had this sense of wanting to do something independently and just build a business. And we left that Ironman experience after we ran this race together being like, we got to do something. So we started writing online, and then we were talking about selling cups at one point. I mean, we were just willing to do anything.
Anything to work together.
Yeah. At that point, we was like, I found my guy. Let's figure out exactly what we can do. And it was clearly going to be direct in the health and wellness space. And it also involved food quality and our backstories. So I don't know. I mean, I feel like it all kind of just like happened like destiny in a lot of ways.
It was God's plan. For us, it was some people go right business, then find the right partner. For us, it was right partner, then right business. So
definitely
no right or wrong answer. That's just how we did it.
100%.
Our boy Steve Lane, who hosts Radical Health Radio, which is Heart and Soil's podcast. Incredible news show. Morning. He says 2023 highlight reel, favorite pod, favorite steak, favorite moment. For me, favorite pod, we touched on it, Will Harris, episode 160. A sentimental favorite to me is our buddy, Greg Schoenberg, who came on episode 196. One of my really good friends and mentors back from New Jersey. More of a business, entrepreneurial life podcast that we covered, but so much good information for anyone that's looking to level up their general, like just relationship game, the way that they network, connect with people, get ahead, monetize your passion. Episode 196. That was one of my favorites and most special episodes. Favorite steak, I would say either the Picana or any steak that we make on Steak Saturdays.
Yes.
We got in this great routine, Steak Saturdays. Everyone that's listening should try this. We have a bunch of our buddies over, bring your own steak. We throw them on the grill. Harry's got the PK grill out there.
PK.
Fires up a bunch of steaks,
best
butter.
Grill out there?
Yeah, best grill out there for sure. Bunch of steak, bunch of butter, chop them up, eat with your hands. You'll have the best conversation, best meal you've ever had in your life.
Yes.
Favorite moment for me was the 2023 Alt Health Summit. Very bittersweet in some ways because you put so much work into it and then had a family tragedy that popped up where you weren't able to attend it. The reason why that was my favorite event was like just physically seeing all the people there, the speakers that we got there, really feeling like the community was being built out, but also like I kind of grew strength from the fact that, you know, you weren't there and I wanted you to be there so badly. And I just felt like that was a great moment of just being tested in the partnership and, you know, us just needing to step up.
Yeah, that was a good stress test of everything.
Totally.
The only thing I would just add, podcast-wise, Khalil Rafati, I think I listened to that podcast, and being in that podcast, after that show, I was like, we can do anything.
Yes.
Anything is possible.
Yes.
It was incredible. His story is unbelievable.
Literally a homeless drug addict, I think up till the point that he was 30, found God, prayed, completely turned his life around, founded Sun Life Organics, cut us our first investor check. Sun Life's got 15 locations, and he's just this magnetic, charismatic, loving dude that, you know, we're honored to have him involved in the business, but more importantly, to have him on the show and for him to be a friend is incredible.
Yeah.
Cool. So Austin Lehman wants to know, how does a cut of beef matter when concerning nutrition, i.e. ground versus steak?
Yeah, I saw this one. I actually don't really know if I have a great answer. Like,
I don't have a great answer either. Anecdotally, for whatever reason, my stomach digests whole steak cuts versus ground beef way better.
interesting.
I know you do really well with ground beef.
Yeah.
Someone told me that there's something about the histamine content in ground beef that could be inflammatory to certain people.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's cheaper, which is nice, but I am typically optimizing for steak over ground beef because I feel like it just digests better with me.
Yeah.
I don't have any scientific data to back that up. That's anecdotal observational science.
Yes, totally.
Which is what everyone should be doing. You should be even if you don't have stomach issues, you should be taking that journal concept and figuring out what foods sit best with you.
If you have data that your body is interacting with certain foods better, and then some study tells you that what you're doing isn't true, and you believe the study, I don't know what to tell you.
100%.
Listen to yourself. Listen to your gut.
Yes. Michael Tester has a question for you, Harry. He wants to know, tell us about your experience rolling with Nicky Rod at B Team.
So it was at 10th Planet in Austin, one of the first, within the first 6 months of me getting down here. And I go into 10th Planet, open mat, and Nicky Rod's there. And for those who don't know who Nicky Rod is, just Google him.
What do they call him? The Black Belt
The
Slayer?
Black Belt Slayer. And I knew who he was. So and Casey was there, Donnie Delicious, and we get on the mats. I'm like, I know he's going to call my ass out because we're like similar size. You want to go with guys who are closer to your size if you're a bigger dude. And yeah, I mean, it was like wrestling a refrigerator.
Yeah, mahogany dresser.
Yeah, no, it was like trying to move a mahogany dresser down a flight of 600. It was like trying to get a mahogany dresser out of the Empire State Building.
Is he the type of guy
taking the stairs?
Taking the stairs.
Yeah.
Is he the type of guy, knowing that you're a white belt, is he going to take it easy on you, or is he just smashing people?
Anyone who has that level of experience always starts out trying to feel out the level a person's at, and you know that within 5 to 10 seconds of rolling with someone. Like most white belts come out, like their movements are overly exerting themselves. They clearly aren't being like too tactful. You can also sense a little bit of like hesitation and fear. At that point, I had rolled a bunch. I was still a white belt, so he could have thought I was better than I actually was. And I mean, within 10 to 20 seconds, I think he probably knew exactly just like how easy he was going to have it for the next 5 minutes. He's an animal.
He looks like he's built out of granite too.
Yeah. It was like wrestling, like the statue David.
Good dude.
Yeah, great dude. We got spicy boys afterwards.
You guys did a little spicy fried chicken afterwards.
Yeah, for Casey's show. It was good.
That's incredible.
Yeah, he's the man.
The man. Last question is from our good buddy Luke Lamy.
Luke.
What have you learned about networking since you started doing business with Brett?
Wow. I can't keep this one short. One, networking is the most, I wouldn't say what you do is networking, but building relationships is the most important aspect of any business that you're going to build. Mm-hmm. And building, and not just that, your life is going to be so much better if you build really good relationships with really high quality people who also want to build things. So I think you have an exceptional ability to find people who are on similar paths to you, but then also build genuine relationships with people. I think one other thing too is just the persistent nature in which you might pursue people is unlike anything I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So I would say like like a dog that hasn't eaten like 10 days. That's Brett trying to get in touch with people. So I'm sure if anyone's listening and you've been on the other end of that, you know what that's like.
Sorry.
But yeah, but it's just this level of persistence that is truly impressive, and that it shows people how much you are invested in what you're doing. And I have always just had a different style, and working with you has taught me like, man, I need to potentially be more like, don't take no for an answer in some situations.
Well, you also, if I was to flip it on you, you almost have this like, I sound like we're blowing smoke up each other's ass, but you have this like,
it's just turning into a mess.
You like have this like gravitational orbit where I feel like people want to be around you. They want to be friends with you. And you do one of the best jobs at actually building community that I've ever seen, where I think there's a more targeted approach to what I have. And then there's this probably more organic approach to what you have, where you're just kind of like either going to events, creating events, doing running groups, whatever. And we've gotten so much opportunity that have just come from these very organic things that you've put together, where you're like, my end goal isn't anything self-interested besides the fact that I just want to bring really cool people together and create a great experience. And then God rewards you with all these other opportunities that come from that. The thing with my approach is I just don't believe in taking no for an answer. And I think you have to be careful though. And I think people interpret that the wrong way. I'm not following up with someone because I selfishly want something with them, or I don't think like, I hate the word networking because it just seems super transactional. I just love building relationships with really cool people.
Yeah.
I always feel like I've just been like a friend collector is maybe the word to describe it. Like they're just people that I would see, or, you know, podcasters or guests or whoever. And I'm like, I just want to know that person and build a relationship with that person and ask them questions. And it's blending that with just the benefit that I'd had being in sales for 4 to 5 years of like, dude, just do really good follow-up and stay persistent and find creative ways to reach out to people, and people will say yes, and you can get them in your network. You can build friendships with them. You can build business opportunities with them. But it all starts with like, I just don't believe in taking no for an answer. Just keep shooting your shot. Like the other day, we were having a conversation with Noble. We were like, hey, can we bring the CEO in that runs this massive other supplement company to come in? And one of our coworkers was like laughing at the idea because he was like, dude, you're out of your mind if you think he'd ever do that. I'm like, fuck that.
Yeah.
Let's make him say yes.
Let's see what happens.
Let's create something and make him say yes.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. The Third Door. I haven't even read. That's a book,
It's
right?
the best, one of the best books I've ever
Haven't
read.
read it. Understand the concept. There's always a third door.
There's always
another way. Like people think so binary in their decision making and in their view of the world. Like, oh, if I stay in this job, then like this is gonna be the outcome. If I leave this job, this is gonna be the outcome. It's like, well, what if you thought a little bit higher, or shot a little bit higher, or thought a little bit more creatively? There's always the opportunity. One thing I was gonna say, your gift within the whole building relationship thing too, is also this ability to like truly be inspired and admire people, and then like bring that into how you like lead with the conversation and want to like build that genuine nature of the relationship. Yeah. Like you share that admiration. You're like, I'm truly inspired by what you're doing. You do it in a much more genuine way than what I could possibly say, but you share that what sparks an interest in building the relationship with them. So it's not just like, hey, can I have something from you?
Yes.
Like, no, that doesn't work.
Yes. Like when I'll send a message, I will craft out, the first part of the message will always just be the things that I've admired and taken from that person.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just asking for something. And again, it's a very delicate balance, especially for anyone on here that's creating a podcast or starting a business or whatever. You have to be very careful where you can't overdo it too. That's, I think, something we learn with some of the bigger guests we've had on. When you almost overdo your admiration for someone, that person either consciously or subconsciously kind of knocks you down a peg.
Yeah.
So you have to like very thoughtfully let them know why they've inspired you or why they mean a lot to you or whatever. And then also show that you're on their caliber too.
Definitely.
So, brother, that was the last question. We nailed it. We have to unfortunately run because we're going to be recording a podcast with Nolan on the Tyro experience at Squatch, which is going to be amazing. But dude, these Q&As are fun. For people that are listening, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Please let us know what you think about this too. Let us know if there's valuable information. Should we tweak it? Do you hate it? Do you love it? We definitely want to do more solo episodes. We've talked about that before. But we appreciate it. We love y'all.
I'm gonna record you real quick.
Yeah.
Look at you closing out the podcast.
I'm gonna get roasted right now because if you're watching this on video, my laptop has been on my balls the entire time, just frying me with EMFs. But we're gonna get through it though.
Love it. Yeah, we need to do more exciting stuff with the Mafia. We're gonna start iterating more. So if you have any comments, questions, critiques, ideas, we're about to start getting a little wacky. So stay tuned.
Awesome.
Buckle up.
Love y'all, and I love you.
Love you. Later.